So, for those of you who do not know, I'm Nat. I'm the head of community at Exceptional Individuals. We're a London based, but we work nationally across the UK to support neurodivergent individuals. One of the great things about our team is that we're predominantly run by neurodivergent individuals. So, maybe dyslexia, dyspraxia, ADHD, dyscalculia, all the disses we support, as well as autism and ADHD and etc. One thing that happens a lot is, applying to work is a real struggle because it just isn't set up for a divergent mindset. And there is support available for people who have like bad backs, who are pregnant, who might be visually impaired, might like struggle with like just physical movements or any sort of long-term health complication. But when it comes to things like mental health or neurodivergence, a lot of people do not realize there is help available. And personally, I think it's one of the government's best kept secrets. And today we're going to be looking about exactly what is it, but more importantly, how do we navigate it? Because there is some irony attached, right? A service that is aimed to support people, which does a fantastic job, might not be the most accessible. Yes, they do it in Welsh. Yes, they do it in British Sign Language. But say if you're dyslexic or autistic and you might struggle with communication, either reading it or processing it, you're going to have a bad time. And this is why we're going to be looking today on how we can overcome it. So Lisa says, I've had access to work agreed through EI, got my software and tech on its way, my training booked, the coaching. Oh yeah, so basically you've got it coming, which is amazing. Anya, I am off sick. Sorry to hear that, Anya. I'm planning to start a new business when I will get better. Support will be very helpful. I'm currently self-employed on benefits. Yes, and we will be talking about self-employment as well. Hala, I'm applying for myself. Good on you. Well, I think today, fingers crossed, should be very beneficial for a lot of you. So, how do I access the Access to Work scheme? If you're like anything like myself and you hate paperwork, today I've tried to make it as simple as possible and as straightforward. So, trying to get all the complicated process and whittle it down to its most basic form. So, just keep that in mind that I have simplified it, but the core principles are all true. So, yeah, we mentioned a bit about EI. We support people. So, if any of you are looking for support around this, you can contact us and we'll happily help you. But also, if you want to do it yourself, you're more than welcome to. And this will be beneficial to those of you who want to do it yourself as well. So, what is your experience with a workplace needs assessment, either via Access to Work or otherwise? First of all, I want the good, the bad, and the ugly. All your experiences with having them. Because I am not getting paid. Well, I am getting paid today, but not by Access to Work. So I'm going to be completely unbiased as much as I'm possibly able to. And I'll tell you, there's good and bad. It's an amazing service, but it's not perfect. So today we're going to go with a real honest approach of the pros and cons. Oh, TL, we got Tim in the chat. Nice, thanks. Tim is our regional expert, so do use him as well. So no experience. I have never applied for them. I mean, I've had Access to Work a few times through every one of my jobs, and to be honest with you, I've had a mixed experience. And one of the common challenges I find is that, say you're neurodivergent, most people who go through to Access to Work have a physical impairment or disability, and you'll most likely get an assessor who has a physical difference. That means that they might not be the experts in your challenges or unique circumstances. That's why Exceptional Individuals does what we do. So if you have, say, different, like you're applying for Access to Work for a reason other than neurodivergence, do your research and find out what organisations can best support you. You can go directly to the government. The only downside with that is you're not sure who your assessor is going to be. It's a bit of a mixed bag. Good, but doing the application myself is long. Yeah, I agree. Very ugly with the employer. Access to Work implemented as a tick boxing exercise. I have had a workplace assessment by a qualified assessor. Oh, what is going on here? I had an employer who said I shouldn't need it. Oh, that's not cool. Good, but doing the application process long, really patient and helpful. Nice. The drugs really deep and discovered issues I've had I never thought to mention. or they dug up really deep and discovered issues. I guess that's a good thing. Okay, so we've got some mixed experience, but luckily a lot of positives as well. Neurodiversity awareness training. This is one thing which no one ever asks for, but you are completely able to ask for it. A workplace needs assessment doesn't have to be just one of the recommendations doesn't have to be just for you as an individual. You can also get support for people at the organization. Because let's face it, half the time we're not the problem. It's just society doesn't understand us and doesn't really get what it is to be dyslexic or autistic or etc. So you can get training for your team or just for your manager or for the wider organization. So just keep that in mind. Oh, we got a question. I work with people with dyslexia and dyscalculia. I want to advise them correctly. Can you also say if you can also claim DSA? You can, because I have disability living allowance and I've had a workplace needs assessment. So maybe if I'll just mark that as red. So here is a brief overview. Access to Work is a publicly funded employment support program that aims to help more disabled people start to stay in work. It can provide practical and financial support if you have a disability or long-term physical or mental health condition. That is the official intro from the Department for Workplace and Pensions. And they are the government department that runs this. Nice, simple stuff, not much to explain here, but there are some complicated words, so we will be breaking it down. I'm a control freak. I want to know the content of the neurodiversity training before recommending it to colleagues. Ah, good point. Well, when you have it, you can actually talk. Let's say you did it via us and you said, okay, I want to have neurodiversity training. You can work with us to make sure that we're telling the narrative that you want to tell, because everyone's neurodivergence is different. So you might want to have a blanket training covering the 101, or you might want to have more detailed training. So I'm not saying you might be able to tailor every single sentence, but you'll definitely have an opinion as to what is taught and how it's taught to make sure you're comfortable with it. These are some of the goodies you can get. Now, this list is not exhausted. It basically can be anything that can help you. So here we've got things like voice software, which I use, so you can talk and it can write it out. You can have a digital notepad where you can write down on physical paper and it will automatically send it to your phone. So if you lose your notepad, you've got a backup. You can have really advanced spelling software, paper that kind of changes the color of the screen, which helps some people. Even monitors that have a really fast refresh rate, which can reduce visual strain and headaches. The pens that you can go over things and read back to you. Mind mapping software, things that read software out. Literally, it could be anything. But I can assure you that but the importance of getting a good assessor is that they all know this stuff. So yeah, you could go to any assessor, but going to an organization like Exceptional Individuals, we are experts in this type of equipment. You can even get money for ink for your printer, for example. Where you can't get stuff though is things that can be used for other purposes. So maybe getting a brand new Mac, they wouldn't like that because you could also use it for many, many other purposes. It's typically things that are related just for the individual. You can also get travel expenses. You can get a support worker, anything along those lines. That's what I would really need. Oh, cool, Helen. You can't get reimbursements for anything you've already had to buy for yourself, though. Yes, you're right, Lisa. You can't do that. So you need to get it approved beforehand. They cannot do it retrospectively. So here are just some common recommendations just to wet the whistles and get your brain thinking. Speech to tech. For spoken words to be converted into plain text, transcription, you can also get things where, say you record on a dictaphone, you can run it through the computer and it will convert it into text. Because let's face it, who of us really review all the things we record on a dictaphone? Ain't got time for that. Text to speech. You can get I get everything to read back to me. And you can even change the voices. I use Fiona, a charming Scottish lady. C Pen. Maybe you're out and about, you're not really computer savvy, but you still need support with reading. A C pen, great stuff. Scan over it, read it back. Dictaphone, play things back to you. Spelling software. If you are heavily dyslexic, as I am, writing things and right clicking and changing the spelling is time consuming. You know, once you've gotten to so far in life, you don't have time for that. You just accept that this is how you spell. So advanced spelling software can automatically change the spelling, and it gets smarter the more you use it. Different smart pens, again, can turn written text into digital text. Mind mapping can be better for more visual thinkers. Noise cancelling headphones can be really good for those who have autism or get easily distracted. Grammarly is awesome. Yeah, no, I love Grammarly, though Grammarly is harder to get via Access to Work. And the reason why is anything that requires a subscription is more challenging. It's far easier to get something which is a one-off payment and then you have. I'm not saying it's impossible, just easier. But great, so this sounds brilliant now. I love what you're saying. This seems amazing, and you can't pay for it because I'll be honest with you, this stuff's expensive. To have a look, like most of these things, we are looking at about 100 to £300 easy for some of these alone. So if you want to buy them yourself, you're more than welcome. But there is a reason why there is a grant available for these types of items. So are you eligible? This is going to be a big one, but let's get into it. So are you over 16? If you're under 16, go back to school. You can't get access to work. You have to be over 16. Currently employed?
Currently employed question include self-employed?
Yes, it does. Though I will do a special section on self-employment because there are a few little differences. 16 or over, currently employed. Now, this could be maybe you've got a job confirmed. So long as you've got an official contract says you have a job, you are still employed, even if you're not working at the time. Self-employment, it counts. Great. Now, this is very simplistic, so we are going to go into more detail, but this is your basics. Have worked for the employer for 6 weeks plus. If you've worked for over 6 weeks, absolutely eligible. If you haven't worked for 6 weeks, you definitely should apply ASAP. Short answer, it makes life a whole lot easier because access to work isn't just a grant. A grant is free money you don't have to pay back. But this is more like subsidized. So if you have a big company, they might have to pay a contribution. And yeah, in theory, there should be no trouble because you pay no money, it's the company. But let's face it, companies do not like paying. So if you apply within the first 6 weeks, typically it's always paid for you. And that's why we always recommend doing it within the first 6 weeks. It just makes the process a whole lot easier. Next one, contract for more than 3 months. Can you apply if you're contracted less than 3 months? Yes. Why do we advise not to do it? It takes a long time for this process to work. We're going to be honest with you. At the moment, it could take easily 3 months plus for the whole process from applying to getting the equipment and beginning. And let's say you've got a short contract. By the time your equipment arrives and you've been trained in it, your job might be finished. Just something to keep in mind. This is also another reason why we highly recommend applying for it ASAP, just because the likelihood of you having the equipment and the mentoring and the training before you start your job is slim. So do keep that in mind. Next one is 50 plus people in your organization. Even if you've a long timer, you've been in your organization like forever, years and years, if you have less than 50, it's also going to be completely free, typically. If you've got more than 50, normally a contribution. But again, if it's within the first 6 weeks, forget about this as well. So as you can start to see, there's lots of little if this, then that. It's a bit more complicated, but we're going to break it down bit by bit. So no matter when anyone comes up to you and says, am I eligible? You're going to know. Or if it's yourself, there'll be no blurry or grey lines. So here are some top tips, and these are ones which have come up from our employment team, who are absolute experts at access to work. So if you're a small employer, Under 50 employees, you may be fully covered, but may not be offered pro forma. And that essentially means is there's less. I mean, Tim, are you in the chat?
I am indeed.
So, Tim, could you quickly explain what you mean by pro forma?
Certainly. So, in essence, access to work is a reimbursement scheme, i.e., you purchase and then they repay. However, although they expect that of larger companies, they understand that, say, self-employed individuals can't do that. So they'll allow pro forma, meaning that they will provide the fund directly to a third party. So in this case, it's going to be your suppliers. However, for a company of, say, 50, they might say, yeah, we are happy to reimburse you for everything, but you have to buy it first. So pro forma meaning beforehand, and with small companies, it will be at their discretion as to whether they allow that.
Cool. Thanks very much, Tim. Then, for employers with over 50 employees, they will be required to make a contribution, and there is a threshold that we can send you or you can go online, but it's along the lines of if your company is earning or you have 50 employees, the contribution is very small. It could be like £200, it could be £500, like 2,000. It's a very reasonable amount considering the price of the equipment. Then coaching sessions can be fully compensated even if you're a large employer. So as we mentioned, yes, some of the software or equipment you may have to contribute for if you're a large employer, but coaching, easy. So definitely recommend the coaching. It is advised to inform your employer that you are undertaking a access to work application. Now, a lot of people do not want to tell their employer because they're scared of discrimination, people not understanding. But the benefits of telling the employer is that for access to work, you have to get someone, your direct manager or HR, to sign it off. And if they're not aware, they might just say no or they might not answer it. And that can delay the process considerably. So it's much better to get someone who is a decision maker early on. So Gavin says, a work needs assessment. How does it relate to this? Well, you've got a workplace needs assessment, and an access to work is just a type of workplace needs assessment. So it kind of fits into that. If you are a new employee, so you've just started, upcoming employees can apply 6 weeks before their employment begins. And this is one thing that so many people do not do, and I would say is probably one of our best tips. If you have a job confirmed, apply, because it takes a while to get the ball rolling. And, that's due to COVID, that's due to it being a small team in Harrow and around. Really do apply as soon as you're able to. Employees playing within 6 weeks of their start date can be fully covered, even for a large employer. So it makes your life nice and easy. But what if I'm self-employed, like Bob the Builder? Have you been self-employed for a year plus? Have you earned at least £6,200 in the last year? Have you 2 self-assessment tax returns? And do you have a UTR number? So yes. Most of these things are required. So for have you been self-employed for a year? That's mainly to make sure you have your tax assessment, you have your UTR, though it can be less. I remember, Tim, you said, correct?
So again, my man?
You mention it can be self-employed for less than a year, but you need to have a forecast for your finances and a business plan.
That is indeed correct. So if you, given that tax returns are yearly and done a year in arrears, you don't have one for a while when you first become self-employed. However, if you can prove that you are making money and will make over the amount required for some time to come, then they will consider your claim, or at least that was the case. And the best way to do that is to have a strong business plan and an even stronger forecast. So although it says, so I would recommend 4 to 8 years financial forecast, just so that they can get a handle of what you have in mind and that you've thought it through. But it's still, of course, at their discretion, case by case.
And that is important. So even if you think you don't match one of these criterias, still worth getting in touch because it is case by case. For the 6,200, that is for the whole year. So let's face it, if you're running a business, hopefully you have made that. Tax returns, that's for evidence. Your unique taxpayer reference number, which you will have if you're self-employed. Believe us, it does happen that unregistered companies do apply. You have to be registered. And this also refers to performers as well, who might not consider themselves a company. So what's some top tips for employers? I hope you appreciate I did Bob's from Bob's Burger. I assume he's self-employed. Make sure that you can prove the last questions. Proof is really important for a happy life. If you are newly self-employed, you must have a business plan with a financial forecast of at least 2 years. Like Tim said, the more that you have, the easier it is because you're able to prove. Any agreed provisions are fully covered. So it doesn't matter if it's just yourself or you're self-employed, it's pretty much always fully covered. So you wouldn't be expected to contribute like you would at a large company. But remember, the individual never pays. You can arrange pro formas so that the supplier is paid directly, so you don't have to do the pay personally. So no middleman, it's just done directly. And that can make your life a whole lot easier. Now for directors. Not all directors are evil like Mr. Burns, but he was the most famous one I could think of. So a director, do you own the business? Or are you just really high up? Directors may have to provide business finances as well as personal finances. So you absolutely can apply, but just bear in mind, you also have to give information about the business. Oh, we got some questions. Let's have a quick look. What are the top tips for successfully getting awarded an Access to Work grant funding for a job aid support worker? That's a good question. Tim, do you have any insights on this?
Certainly. So again, as ever, at discretion, case by case, but of course, if you have a physical disability, for instance, if you're an amputee, then it's going to be very easy to express why they might need someone with them. Whereas with quote unquote hidden disabilities, it's far more up for debate who needs what and why. But for instance, someone with dyslexia might be on the literary side, but then the question becomes, well, why doesn't the employer do that already? For the record, employers can source internal support and go through Access to Work for the reimbursement portion. But in answer to the question, so long as you can prove that you need it, they will consider it. But it's difficult with neurodiversity to prove that you need it.
Cool. Thanks, Tim. How common is it to get awarded a job aid support worker? Well, I'm going to say that's similar to the last one. So thank you for those. So how do I apply? I'm going to go really, really quickly over how to actually apply. And I'm going to do it via exceptional individuals because that's what we're experts in. And this relates to neurodivergence. If you aren't neurodivergent, you can go directly to the government website. But the advantages of doing it via us is that we are experts in it and we do all the paperwork. You just have to say you're interested. So essentially you just go on our website, exceptionalindividuals.com. Then you go to the looking for support page, and then there will be a workplace needs assessment. So if you click on looking for support on the menu bar, it's the third one down, it will take you to the page. Then you scroll down, so you're on the main page, scroll all the way down, and then you'll get to the short form. So Jade said, I did my application yesterday, but could your team still help me? Absolutely. So you can always cancel or go back or use us as your third party. What I would say is get in contact with us directly, or Tim if you're able to message privately. So then you scroll down to the page and you'll get this type form, and it asks very short questions. If you're able to fill it out, amazing. If you can only half fill it out, better than nothing. If you really struggle with this sort of thing, just pick up the phone. We're around 5 days a week, so you're always welcome to get in contact. The first thing to ask yourself if you want to do it, mind blown, love it. The first thing to ask yourself if you want support via exceptional individuals is, are you neurodiverse? And this can be both diagnosed or not diagnosed. And this is another thing. People always assume you need to have like ample amounts of proof. If you are struggling in the workplace and under the definition of a disability, which is something that is longer than 12 months that can affect you in a moderate to severe way, you would be covered. So dyslexia, dyspraxia, autism, ADHD, and other forms of disabilities can all be covered. And we've got someone who said they've got more than one. Absolutely, does not matter. Even if you've got one or several, you can, and any age up from 16. So we've got, a lot of people with autism today. Yes, we've got someone with dyspraxia representing. No one with dyscalculia or dysgraphia, eh? Less common, but can still definitely benefit from support in the workplace. Then we ask you what your name is. For this, you need your legal name. So whatever your name is on your passport, simple enough. Last name, again, official name, no kind of crazy slang names. Keep it real, otherwise we're going to have to come back for more information. If you make a mistake, it's just going to delay the process. So this is why it's important to get these right. Oh, yes, we got April. But April is your first name, not last name, unless this is someone else. Which email address shall we use? Should you use your personal email address or your work email address? Honestly, doesn't really matter, whichever one you feel comfortable with. But just make sure you've done it correctly, because one of the biggest mistakes is people doing the email address wrong. I know, rookie mistake, but it does happen quite a lot. Then, best number to get you on. Again, doesn't matter if it's your personal or work number, as long as it's a number you actually answer. Access to Work will only call you 3 times before they give up on you, and then you might have to do the application all over again. It's a pain, so make sure you give them a number that you're actually going to answer. 16 and above, we've mentioned this. Simple, yes, carry on. No, come back later. Your current employment status, and just to go over it, full-time is normally over 16 hours, part-time is normally under, self-employed, you do your own tax returns, you're essentially your own boss or a freelancer. A director of a company, that is similar to self-employment, but remember you've also got to show the revenue of the business. A 0-hour contract, or about to start a new job, absolutely can apply, or unemployed and a volunteer. Unfortunately, if you're unemployed and a volunteer, you cannot get access to work at the moment. But knowing about it is definitely worthwhile. Because say you're going to an interview with someone and they mention some of your challenges, you can say, well, there is this grant available which can then support me, which can kind of be that selling factor to say, yeah, this isn't going to be an issue. This is something I already know about and I can already cover. Is it free to use exceptional individuals? Great question. Yes, absolutely free for individuals. We're a social enterprise, so we do not make money off of you. How long have you worked for your employer? This is the next question we ask. So either longer than 6 weeks, less than 6 weeks. The only reason we ask this is if you've been at less than 6 weeks, we prioritize you just because there's a little bit more of a rush to get it done in time to make sure you get it as soon as possible. If it's over 6 weeks, still apply, definitely, but just be mindful that your organization may have to contribute. You're not at this point though, you're not signing your life away, you're just kind of showing interest. So we will phone you and have a conversation just to make sure it is right for you. Is your employment contract more than 3 months? And again, we ask this because the process is rather long, and if you've got a contract which is less than 3 months, it may not be worth applying, and that's why we ask. For us to get support, we are going to need to talk to your manager or HR team to apply to do this. Can you provide the details now? If you are able to provide the details, it makes the whole process so much easier. If not, do not worry. But one thing I can say is we will not contact your employer until we have spoken to you. So do not worry, your employer's not going to get a random phone call and without you having any like upfront chat. The only reason we ask this is it just means it's less form filling out later. So yeah, just being mindful. This unfortunately can't be a confidential process, but it doesn't mean the whole organization needs to know if you don't want them to. It just has to be normally someone from HR. Name of the manager or someone in HR we can contact. So normally we do need a direct contact if possible. And this goes back to the telephone number. Make sure you're giving the number and email address of someone who actually answers their phone. Because just like you only have 3 chances, the HR contact or manager only has 3 chances before they give up. The amount of people we have had to restart the whole process again because someone didn't reply to a letter is ridiculous. Katrina says, does changing employment affect what is available? I.e., does it matter what your job role is? Absolutely not. What you get recommended will be different. And if you change jobs or situations, you can apply again. There's no limit to the amount of times you can apply. It more depends on your circumstances and if your needs have changed. Gavin says, can a flyer be provided to hand to managers or HR to explain the process and your support? Absolutely, and I think we may have one. If not, our team can definitely get on that because we're looking at resources at the moment. Email address, standard. Telephone number, like I said, make sure they actually reply. So this is why giving the manager a heads up in advance means they can be a little bit more due diligent in actually making sure they pick up those number. Because top tip, Access to Work will normally call you on a withheld number. Exceptional individuals, I think we always call on a number where you can see, so you can kind of know who to suspect. Employer cannot apply on your behalf. They can, if they've talked to you, they can definitely show interest, but ultimately it has to be you. How many people work at your organization? Oh yes, so this is when one of you asked about the contribution. Really bare basics, but if you have less than 50 employees, nothing. If you've got 50 to 249s, typically it's about a £500 contribution. If it's over 250 employees, it's £1,000 contribution. So even if you're a large company, this is very, very reasonable. Nearly 80% of the costs are approved. It's an absolute bargain. Where are you based? England, Wales, Scotland, it does not matter. All of these covered under the same scheme. If, however, you are in Northern Ireland, you can still get it, but it's a different scheme entirely. So do not apply. Unfortunately, we do not do Northern Ireland at the moment. So just bear that in mind. You can get help, but it will be a different scheme. It's not via Access to Work. Where did you hear about us? This is a question we ask. It doesn't mean anything. We just do this so we can help more people, whether like however our outreach is working. Because as I mentioned, this is a really good scheme to know about, and more people should know about it. I can't say how long it will be available for. It depends on which government's in place. But what I do know is while it's available, we should absolutely take advantage of it and promote it as much as possible. And then you're done. Sweet stuff. That's literally hardly any questions, right? And then what will happen, we'll contact you within 7 days. We'll talk to you more about it, whether it's right for you, any other like additional information that we need to confirm. But the amount you actually have to write is really, really minimal. And we'll do all the following up. So chill, relax, enjoy yourself. So Helen says, am I correct in thinking an employer with under 50 employees should get Access to Work for completely free? When I brought it up with an employer, they didn't pursue it and sacked me after 5.5 weeks. Really sorry to hear that, Helen. And yes, if it's under 50 employees, it's near enough always free. I always have to be careful because there's always instances, but yeah, it's free. And you could probably claim discrimination on that path because they haven't made reasonable adjustments. But that's a whole nother webinar.
Yeah, I thought that might be the case. Thank you.
Yeah. So here's some top tips. Remember, you can't save the application once you have started. So make sure you have as much information as you possibly can in advance, because you can't save it. If the question has a little star on asterisk, it's mandatory, so you have to do something. If you really don't know, just put like 00 or something. We would much rather that you do the correct information, but it's more important that we at least know you're interested, and then we can always talk on the phone about it. Apply before you start a role, if possible. If you get stuck, give us a call. Honestly, it's not a hassle. We've got people who are dedicated to doing this in a team. And ATW, access to work, and WP&A and workplace needs assessment are very often used interchangeably. So if you ever hear all this terminology, don't freak out. It's just used interchangeably. A lot of the time you'll see ATW because it's just an abbreviation. Can a neurotypical person with anxiety disorder apply via EI? I would say maybe get in contact with us directly, as we are specialists in neurodiversity, but anxiety does cross over a lot. So there are a lot of crossover characteristics. This isn't something that we advertise, but because there is a lot of overlap, it's definitely a possibility depending on the type of anxiety. Okay, you're all doing good. I know this is a lot of information, but it's important. So questions and answers, let's do as many as we can because I appreciate this is difficult. If I have neurodiversity and another disability, can I apply through EI? Great question. Absolutely, but just bear in mind, we are an expert in neurodiversity. We're not experts in other disabilities. So what we may do in that instance is support you with your neurodivergent condition, and we know a lot of other people who deal with physical disabilities who we may collaborate with and work together to make sure you have the most effective report possible. So yes, we can, but just know that we'll probably then work with someone else to cover the things that we aren't experts in. Anya, do you have a question?
Yes, I would say it is harder for me to write. English is my second language.
No worries.
Okay, so I have two questions. One, as an ADHD, I have complicated work situation. So I wonder if the best way would be to just go normal form or maybe email you. So my situation is I'm self-employed. I'm also director of non-profit community organization, but without salary. It's a voluntary position. And recently I registered a limited company because I feel that, for non-profit, it's very hard to get. I can help people through for-profit organization. Therefore, I set up limited company. So basically, I have a free different way. So what will be a suggestion to apply to support for me? I mean, because it's unusual way because I have three different types of, kind of employment. So self-employment and new company.
As long as you meet the criteria for at least one in terms of making enough money, then you would be covered. But it's important to know that if you are awarded, say, equipment via one organization, you can transfer it to another organization, but you have to seek permission, so it's not automatic. I mean, for the one you said you volunteer for, that wouldn't count. So just know that. For the others, you might have to show a very detailed business plan and cash forecast if you think that you will earn over the criteria over so many years.
Sure. And the second question, I'm running Polish community organization, and in our community, it's not the, unusual with minorities, it's very not well known to be aware of, to be diagnosed or to be aware of ADHD or any of types of neurodiversity. And doing the test, I don't have a problem in English. I could do your test on your website, but my colleague, who I suspect is autistic, she had really big problem, to do the test on your website in English. It's hard to understand the meaning. Even if the person understands the vocabulary, it's hard to get the meaning to answer the question. So I wonder if you have support for non-English speaking people, or if you're planning to do, or if you are open to actually, in the future, maybe to work in other, I don't know, organizations, charities, because there are so many people that English is second language and it's harder for them to do even the test on your website.
I completely agree with you, but the wording is done in a particular way because you need to get the certain answer. No, we do not do that, and I think that's more because of like there's not the demand at the moment. However, we're always very open to expanding and doing things. So very much open to it, but unfortunately we don't do other languages at the moment.
Sure, so I'll be in touch with you in the future. First, I will look after myself, and then I will try to help my community.
That's
Thank you.
always the best way of doing things.
Sure, thanks.
And Tim, are you there?
I am.
Can you answer Lisa's question? Is there a minimum amount of hours per week that is required?
Yes, I can. And without revealing who, I've just been informed that my answers have been going elsewhere. The answer is yes. Whilst they're more likely to ask for a contribution, because they might say something along the lines of, well, if you're using it for 5 days but you only work 3 days and you owe us for the days that you're receiving benefit. Odd but true. However, the simple answer is yes, you can apply at any level of part-time employment, and so long as you're working for at least 3 days, they may still fully compensate you or reimburse you. And the lowest that I've seen it done for is 10 hours. But they may have asked for a little contribution in that example.
Thanks, Tim. And from researching today, it is even possible to only do 1 hour a week and still get access to work. But that will be when you're in the job center and they're trying to transition you into the workforce. So in very rare circumstances, but that's only if you're on a work program. So what support would you be given to dyscalculics? I mean, the support really varies depending on the personal circumstances. So it's not like here's your menu. It's case by case. But let's say I know for one person who really struggled with numbers, like on the keyboard, what we did is we got a special keyboard that was like color coded. So like 5 was blue, 8 was there, or it might be coaching, might be support, different strategies. Those are the type of things. It would depend because dyscalculia, there might not be as much technology available. And if that's the case, then it'd be more soft approaches. So having consistent coaching or mentoring. I don't know what help I need. Does that matter? Absolutely not. That's why we're here. We do the assessment. If you have an idea of what works for you, absolutely tell us. But if not, we'll speak with you for an hour plus to find out what would be best. And it's not like we just say, here you go, this will help you. We say, how do you feel? Would this help you? Would this be useful? So it's very much a dialogue. Does it matter how many hours I work self-employed? I think it comes down to the same answer, really. It's more about like the amount of money you make. Make sure that you tick the other boxes. Can you claim whilst on universal credit? Yes, you can, but again, it depends on the circumstances. So if you're on a work program, if you're like disability living allowance, that type, but if you're just conventionally just unemployed, then no. So this one, it kind of depends a little bit. Oh, sorry, I see a question. Daljinder, sorry if I pronounced it wrong.
My question is, in fact, I've been diagnosed quite recently for ADHD, and I was wondering, I've also had a fear of numbers as well, but I've not been tested for that yet. And can QI do that at your agency?
Yeah. Absolutely. You do not need proof, remember. You don't need an official diagnosis. You just have to, I mean, if you have one, it makes life easier, but considering you already have ADHD, you can
Yes.
also mention during the assessment that you struggle with numbers, and even though it's not directly related to ADHD, you can still get support for it.
Okay. So in other words, what I want to say is that I don't know whether actually to contact you or contact the people who actually gave me the diagnosis for the ADHD. It's been brought up that, people have a fear of either words or numbers. And I just wanted to know, with me, I've never been tested for that. And I just wondered.
I mean, that's a whole nother question for a different day, but whether or not you need a diagnosis for that is totally an individual thing. You can go on our website and we do have like characteristic quizzes for dyscalculia, which can give you an idea. But bear in mind, the organization that you had your ADHD from, they may not do dyscalculia because it is
Yeah.
a bit more, it is a lot rarer, so less people are qualified to diagnose it.
Okay. All right. So I'll go on your website and try it out. Thank you very much.
No, my pleasure. And just a quick few things on questions that we are always asked. Is access to work free? Technically, it's a grant, but consider it more of a reimbursement scheme. So an organization will typically pay for the equipment or training up front, and then they'll be reimbursed. So money does have to come out of the organization, but it will go back in. If this is an issue, however, there can be instances where it's just done straight away, but that's typically for smaller organizations. Access to work will not typically cover what they regard as a business expense. So, is it a laptop, general software, team training? Basically, it's the first two. So, laptop and general software, anything which is a standard part of your company, they will not pay for obvious reasons. But team training, they will, as long as it's related to the subject that you're looking for support on. So, neurodiversity. If exceptional individuals is my third party, so essentially your representative, do I need to talk directly to Access to Work? Unfortunately, yes. Not long, but what they'll do, Access to Work will phone you up and just say, are you happy for exceptional individuals to be your representative? And you'll be like, yeah, I am. And then from that point, we can talk on behalf of you. So it's not like you have to have a massive phone call, but you do have to at least talk to them at least one time. Otherwise, we could be anyone, and they want to know who is the third party. How many times will Access to Work call? We've said it 3 times, so pick up the phone, because it's a right pain to reapply you consistently. Is my employer legally obliged to provide anything beyond reasonable adjustments if Access to Work agrees? So if Access to Work or the assessment says you would really benefit from all these things, but your employer wouldn't consider it reasonable, no, they do not have to, unfortunately. So just because your report says something doesn't mean that your employer has to implement it if it is not seen as reasonable. Reasonable is anything which is very easy to implement and isn't going to have an adverse effect on anyone else in the company. A reason they could say no is it costs too much money, or that it would put other people in danger. Some closing extras, because I know we're getting close to the time, but a lot to cover. Post is currently the main method of providing documentation. I know it might as well be like owls at this rate, so it is slow. So be prepared that the likelihood is you'll receive a letter in the post and you normally have to post it back. I don't know why, maybe it's for safety. They do not like doing things via email, so just be prepared. Due to lockdown, there is a massive backlog. So again, prepared for this to be a long process. But just because it's long doesn't mean it has to be like tiresome on you. Remember, we do all the hard work if you go via us. A support worker can be requested, but may only result in a partial contribution. Good to know. And we've got a few more questions I want to answer. If you are employed and also a student on a degree course, can you apply for Access to Work and DSA at the same time? As far as I'm aware, yes, you can, because some DSAs are lifelong, and if you've got a work and employment, yes. So Lisa says, what is DSA? Disability Student Allowance. There are some allowances, though, which would make you not eligible. Tim, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I do not think this one is one of the things that cancels it out. Okay, well, I would say get in contact if you are unsure, but to the best of my knowledge, I think you can have both of these, but there are a few other benefits which would not. Can I get access to work when on ESA and doing permitted work? You can, but you might have to talk to Access to Work directly because, again, it depends on certain things. But yes, you can, but it might be a slightly different approach. I appreciate this is a really whirlwind tour. So if any of you have any other questions, you can either ask now or you can come back to us and we're more happily to explain this. Find out more information, pick up the phone, plenty of ways of getting into contact.
We've got a moment in that.
Oh yeah, please go for it.
Sure. I'm just interested in how we can work together. As you know, I'm the coordinator for Dyspraxia Lambeth, and you mentioned the other day about working together going forward. And I'm just wondering how we can do that. So I just thought it'd be easier, just as we hear, as to ask. No,
Well, it's best maybe to arrange a one-to-one meeting with us, but in short, we partner with a lot of organisation and companies just to streamline the process. So let's say you're able to get someone into work, we'd be able to pick up with them straight away to make sure the process is as seamless and as fast as possible. So what we can just do is make a really streamlined way to make sure that the people you benefit will get the support they need.
is there a way to come under your umbrella? As
It's
a
definitely possible. I would say get in contact with us directly for that, and we can have a lot more like one-to-one chat.
Sounds good. Thanks for that.
No worries. And we also have our YouTube channel, which we have all of the things uploaded. If you enjoyed today, I highly recommend checking out our Equality Act 2010 one, which links really nicely with this. But we also have webinars on lots of subjects, all related to neurodiversity. To get in touch, go to exceptionalindividuals.com, and I've been Nat, so Nat at Exceptional Individuals if you want to contact me directly, or admin at exceptionalindividuals.com if you want to contact the wider team. But I just want to do something a little bit different at the end, and we're currently in the process of developing a resource hub with like articles, with downloadable things that we think people would find really useful. I just quickly want to ask to everyone, if we were to do this, would it even be useful? And if so, what type of content would you see or would you want to see? An example could be maybe things to help you apply for a CV, maybe advice on how to disclose, maybe you need advice on the law around discrimination. This is going to be a big undertaking, so we want to make sure it's actually wanted or needed before we start to embark. Links to webinars on YouTube. Yes, no, we can definitely do that. I think we do actually have that on our website, but we can make it easier to find. Edible leaflets to give to friends, families, and colleagues. Oh, to tell them about the advice and support available. I love that idea. Tools to make our life easier, e.g., time management, energy management, avoiding autistic burnout. Oh, I like that. Really, really more like personal ones. We do blogs at the moment, but maybe we can make them a little bit more interactive. Helen says, signposting to discriminate advice would be great, unfortunately. Yeah, no, I think really straightforward. And thank you all for the lovely feedback. When it's worth getting a diagnosis and how to get them, I think that's very useful as well. Maybe like a short thing, you know, should you get one? And we can like say yes, no, maybe. Thanks, really good foundations to start the access to work journey. You're more than welcome. Editable because some of the info is not relevant to employers, but might be relative to families. Okay, yeah, we could do that. Agreed. Thanks to everyone. No, thank you all, and it's been absolutely amazing having you all here. You can also reach out to us directly if you have any other comments or if you'd rather like phone us up and tell us. We really want this new hub to be an absolute success, and there's no point of us thinking we know what's best for you. It's much better that you tell us what you want, and then we'll do absolutely everything we can to make it. And if you ever want to get involved and make things with us, we're always looking for collaborations. We're very much a community. Okay, well, I think that's good. So thank you, everyone. Catch you soon and have a lovely rest of your week.